Hi, everyone. Thank you for staying on. We'll go ahead and get started in just a few moments once everyone is back into this main group. But how was that? That was amazing. Thank you, Dr. Wardlaw. Thank you, Jessie Cifuentes. We're so glad that you were able to share with us. And it looks like I think we've got everyone. So Sue, I'll pass it on to you.
Oh, this is great. Oh my goodness. What an amazing event. And I'm going to get Alvia in here in just a second. And we're going to answer some questions. So if you have a question, just type it into the chat. And I'll try to do my best at pulling out your questions, and we'll get Alvia to answer them. Alvia, I learned something every time I am with you. I learn so much new, both about the art world, about Houston, about your students. It's just incredible. I tell you, it's a real pleasure and an honor for me to kind of share the stage a little bit tonight with two amazing women. Of course, Dr. Bobby Henderson was one of my all-time idols. She's doing amazing work, and also Dr. Alvia Wardlaw. Both of them incredible leaders, incredible educators, and both forces of nature to be dealt with. So I'm just so honored and so thrilled. This was my first time to see the video. So I'm so excited about getting to hear from the legendary Burt Samples and the amazing Jessie Cifuentes. So thank you so much. And Jessie, so glad you could join us tonight.
Well, thank you, Sue. And I just want to say, it was just a delight to see Dr. Henderson, and I just so appreciate the work that she does with the children, and want to thank you all from the Women's Initiative. All of this seems to blend together so well, but I just have to reflect. Dr. Henderson used to bring the children to the museum, so I still have those memories of the children. Every 2 or 3 weeks coming up, the teachers would bring them in their red wagons and take them through the museum. And we would say, here come Dr. Henderson's babies. So to see her so connected, it is a very special feeling. Yes. And I just appreciate this opportunity. And one other thing, I made a major error in talking about the Thurgood Marshall mural, because I said that Justice Warren voted in favor of segregation, and it should have been in favor of desegregation. So I wanted to make that point clear.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Alvia, I tell you, we've got several questions that are coming up here.
Great.
I have to tell you that I always think that this is a great opportunity for people to discover what a treasure we have there on the TSU campus. I think for those of us who know a little bit about Dr. Biggers and his students and the work in Hannah Hall, it's always wonderful to see it. But there are many people who are new to Houston who don't know about this incredible treasure we have here. So I was going to ask you a first question. That's my question before we get started. Yes. With any of the others, and that is, what do you see as the students? I know your art students come and experience the murals and see them, but what about the other students at TSU and neighboring University of Houston? Do you get a lot of student traffic in through Hannah Hall and the museum?
We do, and not only from our campus, but as you said, U of H, Houston Baptist, Rice University, the students, many times by word of mouth, we have heard about the arts on campus at Texas Southern. But it's a tribute to Dr. John Biggers, who both Burt and Jessie mentioned, that he had this vision for visual art on this campus. And it was very emotional for me, just sitting and listening to Jessie and Burt, because it brings back the strength of the vision that John Biggers had. But we have not only other students, but artists, visitors from around the country, you know, across the continents, who come to TSU knowing that not only will they see these murals and see works by our art majors in the museum, but also the great public art that's on our campus. And Carol Sims did the wonderful sculpture Queen Mother Africa when he first returned from Africa. And both John Biggers and Carol Sims were two of the first African-American artists in the country to travel to West Africa to look and explore the culture there. And the mural that you can see a portion of behind me, the Web of Life, is the result of that travel that John Biggers took. So the short answer is yes, we get a great deal of attention.
That's great. I mean, I think it would, especially with, you know, the recent events of 2020 and everything, for those of us who live here in Houston, to visit Hannah Hall and the museum, and just to see the foundation that TSU has there in the Third Ward and in Houston. And we all know the amazing students and graduates who've gone out from TSU, but to see what a treasure we have there, and that you so much bring to life for us. Okay, I've got a couple of questions here, Alvia.
Okay.
One question is pretty easy, and that is there a book or a collection that highlights these murals?
That's a wonderful question and a timely one. We are working right now on a grant to publish a book on the murals, and Dr. Sarah Trotty is working on this publication with me. So look forward to seeing that fairly soon, I'll say, because we want to interview all of these artists and get all of the information, you know, about them documented. But the first publication, again, John Biggers and Carol Sims were ahead of their time. They, with Texas A&M Press, published a book called Black Art in Houston, which documented the terracottas and all of the works that were created here. And there are many interviews with artists in the 50s and 60s that are included. So that's a great book. That's a great resource. It's kind of hard to find, but you can find it. Black Art in Houston is the title. And then the book that I did on Dr. Biggers for the Museum of Fine Arts Houston has a great deal of information on the mural tradition here.
Yeah, I remember the wonderful work that you did there. And for those of you who don't know, Alvia is incredible. She is an incredible mover and shaker, and has been responsible for really bringing the spotlight onto a number of the Black artists here.
I just enjoy working with all of the creativity that I see in these young artists. You know, it's inspiring. And just here today, there were 3 young artists, one from Namibia and a recent graduate, and they're doing films about Third Ward. So it keeps me enlivened and, you know, energized to be around them.
Well, for everybody on the call, I did some work with one of Alvia's students a couple of years ago, and I was talking to him and I said, isn't it wonderful that you've got Alvia on campus? And he was like, I know, but I'm so nervous when I'm around her. She's such an amazing person. And this guy was not shy at all.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Not a shy bone in his body. He just, but
he was intimidated by your 5 foot.
I can't see that. But it's just, you know, this is a very special place when it comes to the arts. I mean, this building that the museum is established in was, as someone said, is the first building on campus. This is the gym floor that is now a gallery floor. So there's so much history.
Yeah, no, that's Well, we've got another question that's come up here, Alvia. How is the university sharing this with the Smithsonian, with the African American Museum of History and Culture in DC?
We have a wonderful exchange with curators there at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. In fact, I believe it's been made public, but this isn't an exchange as much as a discovery that was built upon a loan of a Kermit Oliver to the museum. And now the museum has purchased for its permanent collection a major Kermit Oliver. So we are, and when I was on the advisory board for the museum, I was very conscious of talking about the South and talking specifically about, you know, what is happening in Texas and what is happening, as I mentioned earlier, along the Gulf Coast, as the museum, you know, looked at the big story of Black culture in this country. So there, Early Hutnall, for instance, the photographer who was a TSU graduate whose work inspired the film Moonlight. He has works that are at the National Museum. So what a great question, because there really is a connection between the two institutions. And the Smithsonian really extends itself, looks at itself as an umbrella and is very supportive of museums in Black communities throughout the country.
Well, I have some questions I'm going to combine here because they kind of talk about a couple of things. One is that one comment that they love that Dr. Biggers imagined that ordinary walls in a school could be glorified with art, and it wasn't and existed with the rest of the school. So that's one of the things that's so unique and so special about Hannah Hall. And the second question is, if all art seniors do a mural, do you ever run out of space?
Yes, we absolutely do, and we have, and that has led to murals being done now on canvas so that they can be moved to different buildings. But originally, the vision of Dr. Biggers was for Hannah Hall, and this came to him through his love of Diego Rivera. Dr. Biggers was, when he was at Hampton as an undergraduate, Diego Rivera, he walked around, as he said, you know, with a book about Rivera under his arm at all times. So when he came to Houston, the proximity to Mexico just led him to try and have a similar mural movement here in Houston at TSU. And our second president, Dr. Samuel Nabrit, was a real humanist. So when he approached the president about doing these murals in Hannah Hall, and mind you, that was the building. The campus was the Fairchild building and then Hannah Hall. Dr. Nabrit was very supportive and quite in favor of it. So John Biggers was a visionary. He truly, truly was. And we build upon all that he and Carol Harris Sims, who was the first Black graduate of Cranbrook Academy, in his own right, an incredible sculptor. And when you come to campus, you see the terracottas. I mean, that's another tour in itself of what these students are able to do. So the book, Black Art in Houston, really captures this amazing partnership and history.
And your book on Dr. Biggers, that's in the library or the gift shop at
here at TSU at the museum.
And at the museum. So if anybody is looking for resources, that's a good place to go look. I'm looking to Aisha to see if we have any more time, or if I know we're getting close to our finish point. So
Yeah, I actually just messaged you. Maybe one more question. I know we had to restart our program, so it put us past time, but I think we can do one more.
Okay, all right. Well, one thing that I saw here, and that is, what do you have to do to preserve the murals that
I,
are in Hannah Hall?
I appreciate that question so very much. Thank you, because I was hoping that we could talk a little bit about conservation. It's an ongoing process. We start off with education. Fundamentally, it's letting people in the building know about, the value of these murals and helping to preserve them just through the protection that we show in our daily movements, in Hannah Hall. That's one thing. Periodically, the murals are assessed by conservators. We've had one major conservation effort in which 15 of the murals, two of which were by Kermit Oliver, were preserved. And the conservators really gave us a list of the most damaged, the ones that needed the greatest treatment. And we had to make some decisions because it's a costly enterprise, but we were able to get funding. President Rudley at the time gave us a large grant to begin that process. And so it's ongoing. And we decided to really work towards having all of the murals preserved before there are a few more places in Hannah Hall, but before, we add any more, we really want to preserve all of them. And it's a long process, and as you know, Sue, conservation is very precise. But a wonderful story that I want to share quickly with you that comes out of the chapter in which we first preserved the murals is that one of our art majors, LaStarsha McGarity, who was in the Honors College here at TSU, was so intrigued by these young conservators from New York that she just volunteered to go over every day and take notes and photograph the murals, help them set up on their scaffolding, whatever they needed. And she was so dedicated. And the more she came, they began to see that she was serious, and they allowed her to help stabilize some of the areas. From that experience, and LaStarsha has a great arc of progress, which I won't go through, but she graduated. She went on to be a Mellon Conservation Fellow at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. She is now a conservator at the Smithsonian National Gallery of Art. And it's just an amazing story. And we have another young student who is applying right now. I've been working with Kei Takahashi. She's applying to conservation schools, and we're waiting to hear. But it's very inspiring to see students be moved and become involved in that way.
Well, Alvia, as with every time we're together and start talking about this, you always leave me wanting more and more time, but aware that your time is valuable, and we want to make sure that we end reasonably on schedule. But I just can't say enough of thank yous to you for taking us on this virtual tour of Hannah Hall. For anybody who wasn't aware, we tried to do a Women's Initiative visit down to TSU in January of 2020, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And all the electricity was off on the campus. Now, Alvia tried to get us into the building, but the security—
I did try.
security cards were going to have nothing to do with that. But we did manage to go over to University of Houston and have a wonderful conversation. So for those of you who miss going into Hannah Hall and the University Museum, watch the news, and as soon as it's safe to do so, try your best to get down to visit. And thank you so much, Alvia, and thank you to the
Thank
Women
you.
Initiative for and the staff for putting this wonderful program together, for highlighting the work that Dr. Henderson has been so involved in, the work that Dr. Wardlaw has been involved in, and what a treasure to be able to hear both from Jesse and from Bert about their work. So thanks to you all. I think we're finishing up now, and appreciate it. Stay tuned. I'm sure the team is going to come out with more information about follow-up projects, follow-up events for the Women's Initiative. Thank you all for what you do for the United Way. We're very appreciative of it.